Chapter 1. Shadow Monarch. Douluo Continent, Fasno Province, Nuoding City. Is this child's martial spirit a beast spirit? Inside the spirit hall of Nuoding City, a young man dressed in the attire of a spirit hall deacon looked at the boy standing before him, his face full of confusion. Su Yuntao, is this the last child left for the martial spirit awakening? An elder entered, glancing around the nearly empty awakening room, with only one child remaining, and asked. Master Nuo, Su Yuntao greeted respectfully when he saw the man. He then said, this child's martial spirit is one I've never seen before. Should we record it? Oh. A martial spirit we've never seen before. A glint of curiosity flashed in Matthew Nuo's eyes. Yes, let's make a record. Since it's a never-before-seen martial spirit, we should definitely document it. After speaking, he walked into the office across the hall. Upon hearing this, Su Yuntao nodded. After watching Master Nuo leave, he turned to the boy in front of him and asked gently, Child, what's your name? Master Su Yuntao, my name is Cheng Xiao. Cheng Xiao, your parents must be very learned spirit masters, Su Yuntao praised. Cheng Xiao nodded slightly but didn't respond further. After all, as a transmigrator from Earth, being an orphan seemed almost a given. Since crossing over to the Douluo Continent, he had been raised by the village chief of Chengya village, next to the Holy Spirit village. So, Cheng Xiao, what is your martial spirit? Is it a beast spirit? Su Yuntao asked with curiosity. Cheng Xiao scratched his nose and turned his head to glance at the figure behind him. Clad in a dark purple cloak, armored, and with eyes glowing through his helmet, the Shadow Monarch stood still. After a brief pause, Cheng Xiao replied, Master Su Yuntao, my martial spirit is called Shadow Soldier, and yes, it's a beast martial spirit. A beast spirit indeed. Su Yuntao's eyes lit up with excitement. He immediately picked up the blue crystal ball beside him and smiled. Cheng Xiao, let's test your spirit power. All right. Cheng Xiao nodded, extending his right hand and placing it on the crystal ball. As soon as his palm touched the crystal, dark purple light filled the entire spirit hall. Heavens! Su Yuntao exclaimed. Innate full spirit power. This child has innate full spirit power. Looking at the boy in front of him, Su Yuntao was filled with joy. If he could recruit Cheng Xiao into the spirit hall, his own promotions and salary raises would be just around the corner. Ahem, Cheng Xiao, would you be willing to join the spirit hall? Su Yuntao asked, his voice filled with anticipation. Cheng Xiao scratched his head. Master Su Yuntao, I think I might disappoint you. Su Yuntao was taken aback. You don't want to join the spirit hall? Master Su Yuntao, I wish to become a free spirit master, so. Cheng Xiao hesitated for a moment before speaking. A free spirit master. Hearing these words from a child, Su Yuntao's expression turned somewhat bitter. Once, he too had dreams of becoming a free spirit master, but harsh reality had made it impossible for him to live that dream. In the Douluo Continent, strength reigns supreme. All right. Taking a deep breath, Su Yuntao gazed at Cheng Xiao's slightly immature face and couldn't help but smile. I believe in you. With your innate full spirit power, you definitely have the potential to change this world. Since you wish to become a free spirit master, I won't force you to join the spirit hall. It's your choice. Thank you, Master Su Yuntao, Cheng Xiao smiled. No problem. Su Yuntao shook his head and then said with a smile, since you won't be joining the spirit hall, I'll give you a certificate for your martial spirit. With it, any primary academy will want to enroll you. Upon hearing this, Cheng Xiao nodded. After Su Yuntao helped him obtain the certificate, the two of them walked out of the hall. As soon as the door opened, Cheng Xiao's village chief grandfather anxiously approached. Deacon, how did it go? Can my little Xiao become a spirit master? Before the old man finished speaking, Su Yuntao smiled and said, Village Chief Cheng, your grandson Cheng Xiao has indeed become a spirit master, and what's more, he has innate full spirit power. Innate full spirit power. The village chief's eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at his grandson. His wrinkled face lit up with joy, and he laughed heartily. That's wonderful. Wonderful. My grandson has innate full spirit power. Grandpa, keep your voice down. Cheng Xiao quickly ran to his grandfather's side, quietly reminding him. Cheng Xiao, although you didn't join the spirit hall, if you ever encounter trouble in the future, you can always come to me, Su Yuntao offered. Xiao, hurry and thank the deacon. The village chief nudged his grandson's shoulder excitedly. No need for that, Su Yuntao waved his hand and smiled. I have to head to Holy Spirit Village shortly, so I won't delay you any longer. After offering a final smile to Cheng Xiao, Su Yuntao left. Upon returning to the village, the news of Cheng Xiao's innate full spirit power spread quickly. The village chief couldn't stop telling everyone about it, his smile never leaving his face. Cheng Xiao couldn't help but feel a little helpless about this, but he didn't want to spoil his grandfather's joy. After all, his pride in his grandson was only natural. However, there was something Cheng Xiao needed to confirm. Now that he had awakened the Shadow Monarch martial spirit, could he summon the dead as shadow soldiers, just like Sung Jinwu? The next morning, Cheng Xiao hurriedly bought a live chicken from his neighbors. He couldn't handle soul beasts yet, but domestic fowl would do just fine for now. After preparing the chicken, Cheng Xiao summoned his martial spirit, took a deep breath, and coldly commanded. Arise. All right, I guess that failed, Cheng Xiao sighed. Just then, a deep, calm, and commanding voice echoed in his mind. I am Ashborn, the Shadow Monarch. Successor of my power, are you ready to accept my strength? Ashborn. Cheng Xiao's eyes widened. He knew everything there was to know about the Shadow Monarch, after all. The reason he'd crossed into the Douluo Continent was because he had stayed up all night reading Solo Leveling. Exhausted, he hadn't noticed the stairs and fell, bringing him here. It seems my power arrived in this world due to an inseparable bond with you, my successor, said Ashborn. I suppose. That's the case, Cheng Xiao replied, scratching his head awkwardly. I suppose. The rules governing power in this world are quite interesting. There seems to be an even stronger force above this world, Ashborn mused. They are gods, the deities above this world, Cheng Xiao explained. Gods. It has been a long time since I last heard the term, Ashborn remarked. Accept my power, future third-generation Shadow Monarch. As Ashborn's voice faded, Cheng Xiao suddenly felt his heart being pulled, pounding violently, and his chest tightening as if a great weight pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe. The sudden pain caused Cheng Xiao to collapse to the ground, curling up in agony. You are different from Sung Jinwu. He had a system created by a designer. Due to the different energy of this world, I cannot let you gradually upgrade and accept my power like he did. But the power I've left in you will grow stronger as you advance in levels. When you become strong enough, your shadow soldiers will multiply. A one-man army, the true monarch. I hope that when we meet again, you will have become the real Shadow Monarch. 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 2. Enrollment. As dawn barely broke, with a faint white line rising in the east, a small figure could be seen running along the country road of Chengya village. Huff, huff, huff. Cheng Xiao gasped for breath. This marked the 3rd month of his training since inheriting the power of Ashborn, the Shadow Monarch. Thanks to the nourishment of shadow energy, his physical condition had greatly improved. Without it, training at the age of 6 would have been nothing short of a dream. No matter how strong his willpower was, a weak body couldn't cope. Overexerting himself to reach his physical limits too soon would only sabotage his foundation. However, with the shadow energy enhancing him, Cheng Xiao could clearly feel his body becoming lighter and stronger. After each training session, a good night's sleep was enough to fully recover by the next day. This was precisely why Cheng Xiao had been able to continue training for 3 months without pause. After completing his 20-kilometer run, Cheng Xiao stopped and smiled at the rising sun. Training was tedious and monotonous, but he felt an odd sense of addiction to it. After each session, he could sense a tangible improvement in his strength, and this feeling of growth was what kept him going. It was worth remembering that even the second Shadow Monarch, Sung Jinwu, had achieved his power step by step, he just happened to progress faster. When Cheng Xiao returned home, he immediately saw the breakfast his grandfather had prepared for him: a steaming bowl of porridge, a peeled egg, and a hand-sized baked flatbread. Originally, they didn't have eggs in the house, but ever since Cheng Xiao started his morning training, eggs had slowly become a part of the routine. Xiao, after breakfast, take a bath. I'll take you to Nuoding City's Soul Master Academy. Our village was given a spot for a working student, and it's been assigned to you, Grandpa Cheng said with a smile. Thank you, Grandpa. Cheng Xiao smiled back and began to eat his breakfast leisurely. After years of living together, the bond between them had grown so strong that it could be described as no different from that of a real grandfather and grandson. Once he finished eating, Cheng Xiao took a bath and changed into new clothes that his grandfather had bought for him a few days earlier in Nordine City. He didn't know how much they cost, but he cherished them because they were a gift from the man who raised him. On the road, Cheng Xiao held tightly to his grandfather's hand. Whether it was the looming separation or something else, his grip remained firm. Chengya village was not far from Nuoding City. If they set out in the morning, they would arrive by afternoon. After passing through the checkpoint and entering the city, they gazed at the imposing city walls in the distance. Xiao, after I drop you off at the academy, I'll head back. Study hard while you're there. If you encounter any problems, think them through. You've always been a smart kid, so I won't say much more, Grandpa Cheng said, patting Cheng Xiao on the head. Cheng Xiao nodded, his eyes reddening. Even though he was a reincarnated soul, he couldn't help but feel the warmth of familial love in this world. All right, young man, no tears. A true man saves his tears for only those he loves and who love him in return, his grandfather reminded him. Otherwise, tears are too precious to waste. Cheng Xiao sniffed, saying, Grandpa, I'm not crying. I just don't want to part with you. Hearing this, Grandpa Cheng chuckled. The two continued walking hand in hand. After asking for directions, they finally found the Soul Master Junior Academy, located in the western part of Nuoding City. From a distance, Cheng Xiao saw the impressive stone archway with the grand words, Nuoding Academy, carved into it. The sight left him somewhat awestruck. As a reincarnator, seeing the academy in this world firsthand was truly overwhelming. To think that even a junior academy could be so grand spoke volumes about the importance of soul masters in the Douluo Continent. As they approached the gate, Cheng Xiao realized that he wasn't the only one reporting for admission. Ahead, an old man and a young boy had arrived even earlier than he had. Are you here to enroll as working students too? The gatekeeper asked, noticing their simple attire. Before Grandpa Cheng could answer, Cheng Xiao stepped forward. Hello, here is my martial soul certification, stamped personally by Master Su Yuntao of the Martial Soul Hall. He handed over the certification as he spoke. Initially, the gatekeeper had wanted to mock their plain clothing. After all, it had been years since Nuoding Academy had accepted any working students. Now, two had shown up at once, and both from small villages, it was hard not to be skeptical. Of course, he didn't doubt the authenticity of the Martial Soul Hall's certification. Rather, he saw an opportunity to exploit. Families without background or connections, especially from peasant households, often felt the need to bribe their way in, and the gatekeeper was more than willing to capitalize on that. Cheng Xiao understood this well, which is why he immediately mentioned Su Yuntao's name, emphasizing that the certification bore the seal of the master himself. Nuoding City was a small place, and as a supervisor in the Martial Soul Hall, Su Yuntao's reputation was surely well known. The gatekeeper's arrogance quickly subsided after hearing the name. He carefully examined Cheng Xiao's certification. Martial Soul. Shadow Soldier. Innate. Full Soul Power. Innate Full Soul Power. The gatekeeper shouted in surprise, his gaze toward Cheng Xiao changing instantly, his voice even trembling. May I go in now? Cheng Xiao asked with a smiling face. Yes, of course. The gatekeeper stammered, hurriedly opening the gate for him, now wearing a flattering smile. As Cheng Xiao entered the academy, a smile appeared on Grandpa Cheng's face as well. He glanced at the old man and boy still standing outside, Old Jack and Tang San, but said nothing as he slowly walked away. You deliberately made things difficult for us. An angry voice suddenly sounded. The gatekeeper was stunned at first, but then he looked at Old Jack impatiently. Why are you two beggars still here? Do I need to kick you out? Why was he allowed in? Tang San, standing beside Old Jack, asked calmly. If you think my martial soul certification is fake, what makes you so sure his is real? Or is it because my martial soul is blue silver grass that you're intentionally causing us trouble? Although Tang San was young, he had been a disciple of the Tang sect in his previous life. He wouldn't hesitate to deal with people like this gatekeeper. After all, the mysterious Heaven Treasures record's general principle was clear in his mind. If someone deserves death, do not hesitate, for sparing them will only bring trouble. In Tang San's view, the gatekeeper's behavior showed clear disdain for them. If they were all working students, why was his martial soul certification accepted as legitimate while his own was questioned? Such blatant disrespect was enough to justify the use of lethal force. If not for the fact that the gatekeeper hadn't physically harmed old Jack, Tang San would have already taken action, possibly with a silent arrow to the throat. He was confident that no one present would realize it was him. Without evidence, who could prove that he was the one who struck? You brat, you're asking for it. Furious at being talked back to by a child, the gatekeeper raised his hand, about to slap Tang San across the face. Seeing this, a cold light flashed in Tang San's eyes. His left hand subtly raised, the silent arrow in his sleeve ready to strike. What's going on here? Just as Tang San was about to fire, a hoarse voice interrupted, stopping both the gatekeeper's actions and Tang San's deadly intent. Hearing the voice, Cheng Xiao, who hadn't gone far, turned back to see a middle-aged man with a slightly thin build approaching slowly from behind Tang San. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 3. You don't want to take me as your master. Tang San was momentarily stunned. He turned around and saw a middle-aged man, who appeared to be in his 40s or 50s, standing behind him. The man must have arrived quietly without Tang San noticing. The man's appearance was quite ordinary. He had slightly thick lips, a crew cut, and a face covered in stubble, which made him look rather unkempt and slovenly. Seeing the newcomer, the gatekeeper quickly lowered his previously raised hand, the anger on his face vanishing, replaced by an obsequious expression. Master, you're back. Hearing this, the middle-aged man merely glanced sideways at the gatekeeper, then looked at Cheng Xiao, who had already entered the academy but hadn't left yet, before finally resting his gaze on Tang San. Old Jack, being a village elder, was good at reading the situation. From the gatekeeper's behavior, he could tell that this middle-aged man was someone important. He immediately handed over Tang San's martial soul certificate and explained what had just happened. The man, who the gatekeeper had called Master, examined the certificate. The certificate is genuine, old sir, he said to old Jack. On behalf of the academy, I apologize for what happened just now. Leave this child to me. Someone so important was apologizing to him. Old Jack's face flushed, and he quickly waved his hand. Master, I'll leave Xiao San in your care. Please take good care of him. The master nodded in response. After a few more words of advice to Tang San, old Jack finally left. Once old Jack was gone, the master turned his attention to the gatekeeper. This is the first and last time. If you do this again, I will report it to the principal, and you won't be staying here. The gatekeeper nodded repeatedly, cold sweat dripping down his back. The master then looked down at Tang San, forcing a smile that looked stiff and a bit awkward. He took Tang San's hand and, pointing at Cheng Xiao, who was about to leave, asked, Is he a working student like you? Him. Tang San glanced at Cheng Xiao, who had already walked away, and shook his head. No, he came after me, but the gatekeeper let him in as soon as he saw his martial soul certificate. I see, the master said, a gleam of wisdom flashing in his eyes. He guessed that Cheng Xiao must have an impressive martial soul. Otherwise, knowing the gatekeeper's personality, he wouldn't have been so quick to let him in. Cheng Xiao was walking ahead of the two. Since it was his first time at Nuoding Academy, he wasn't walking fast, taking his time to explore the grounds and look for the main teaching building. Soon, the master, holding Tang San's hand, caught up with Cheng Xiao. Young man, are you also a working student this year? The master asked as he approached Cheng Xiao from the left. Hello, teacher. My name is Cheng Xiao, and I'm a working student from Chengya village, Cheng Xiao replied, stopping in his tracks. The master chuckled. I'm not a teacher here, he said, shaking his head lightly. You're not a teacher but you're called master. You must be some kind of leader in the academy then, right? Tang San asked from the master's right. For a 6-year-old, you're quite clever, the master said, but you're wrong. I'm not an academy leader either. Cheng Xiao feigned curiosity and asked, since you're not a teacher, why are you called master? The master straightened his back and spoke with a sense of depth. Yu Xiaogang, I'm just a freeloader here at the academy. As for why I'm called master, it's because everyone calls me that. I've even forgotten my own name. You must understand, master and teacher are two different titles. They mean different things, so don't get them mixed up in the future, the master said, a glimmer of cunning in his eyes. Unless, of course, you'd like to become my disciples and let me be your teacher. Become your disciples. Does that mean you're going to teach us how to cultivate our martial souls? Tang San asked, his excitement showing. The master stopped walking and looked at Tang San. So, are you willing? Tang San also stopped, glancing at Cheng Xiao, who remained silent, before looking at the master again. He neither agreed nor refused. It seems I must insist this time, the master said when Tang San didn't respond. After all, you are the third person in 100 years to possess twin martial souls. Tang San was shocked at the master's words. His expression changed as he looked at the master, and he discreetly raised his left hand, unlocking the safety on his hidden sleeve arrow. His eyes were filled with suspicion. The master, noticing the change in Tang San's expression, calmly pulled out Tang San's martial soul certificate. Young man, there's no need to be so nervous. I mean no harm. From this certificate, I deduced that you have twin martial souls. And if I couldn't figure that out, I wouldn't deserve to be called a master. Hearing the explanation, Tang San's eyes gradually calmed down, and just as he was about to speak, Cheng Xiao interrupted. Master, why don't we continue talking as we walk? Cheng Xiao suggested, not wanting to listen to any more of the master's theorizing. Tang San shot Cheng Xiao a deep look but remained silent. All right then, let's walk and talk, the master said, a hint of doubt creeping into his mind as he looked at Cheng Xiao's expressionless face. Doesn't this kid understand the importance of martial soul theory? Tang San is clearly interested, but why is Cheng Xiao so indifferent? Then again, he probably doesn't know my reputation or the value of my core theories on martial souls. With these thoughts in mind, the master slowed his pace, continuing to explain his theories. However, despite his long lecture, Cheng Xiao still showed no interest. Frustrated, the master abandoned his hopes of recruiting Cheng Xiao through theory and focused on teaching Tang San, knowing that having a twin martial soul disciple was more than enough. The master's explanations were clear and easy to understand. After listening, Tang San fully realized the depth of the middle-aged man's knowledge. He immediately stopped, stepped back, and knelt on the ground, bowing 3 times to formally request the master to take him as a disciple. Seeing Tang San kneeling, the master muttered, silly child, but inwardly, he was immensely satisfied. Having a twin martial soul genius as a disciple would finally allow him to prove to the world that Yu Xiaogang was no failure. He bent down and helped Tang San up, saying, there's no need to kneel to become my disciple. A simple bow will do. Tang San responded seriously, once a teacher, always a father. Since you're my teacher, you deserve my kowtow. The master looked over at Cheng Xiao, who had stopped walking and was watching them with disinterest. After a moment of hesitation, he asked, and you? Won't you take me as your master? Cheng Xiao replied, I've seen your knowledge, but I'm not really interested in martial soul theory. I appreciate your kindness, but I'll have to decline. All right, the master said with a hint of regret, shaking his head. Taking a master is about mutual consent. Since you're not willing, I won't force you. He then turned to Tang San, saying, Xiao San, let's go report to the academic office. With that, the master took Tang San's hand and led him toward the office, ignoring Cheng Xiao. The master was confident that under his guidance, Tang San would soon surpass Cheng Xiao. When that time came, Cheng Xiao would realize how wrong his decision had been. Cheng Xiao watched the two leave, shrugged indifferently, and followed them at a distance. Isn't the whole point of attending a Spirit Master Academy to learn theory? 8 comments 0 vote. Pissed. Download the app for additional rewards. More events, more perks. Winning you more free perks. Download now. Firesight. Download app now. Chapter 4. I Don't Fight. The Nuoding Junior Soul Master Academy wasn't as large as it appeared. With the Grand Master leading the way, Cheng Xiao quickly arrived at the administrative office. Thanks to the spirit certificate issued by the Spirit Hall, he smoothly completed the registration process and officially became a first-year student of Nuoding Academy. Xiao-san, I have something to take care of, so I'll be leaving for now. I'll come find you when I have time, the Grand Master said calmly, glancing at Tang San, who had just completed his registration. Understood, teacher, Tang San nodded. The Grand Master patted Tang San's head. As he turned to leave, he gave Cheng Xiao a deep look. During the registration process, the Grand Master had seen Cheng Xiao's spirit certificate, beast spirit, shadow soldier, and innate full spirit power. In his eyes, Cheng Xiao was undoubtedly a rare genius. With the Grand Master's theoretical guidance, Cheng Xiao's future achievements could at least reach the level of a title Douluo. Unfortunately, the boy didn't seem interested in spirit theory. As a renowned spirit theory master, chasing after such a student would surely make him a laughingstock. However, the Grand Master wasn't in a hurry. Once the spirit training began, the gap between Tang San and Cheng Xiao would become increasingly obvious. By then, Cheng Xiao would surely want him as a teacher, right? After the Grand Master left, Director Su, who had registered both Tang San and Cheng Xiao, was also a little surprised but said nothing. He simply handed the two boys their new uniforms and returned to his work. Thank you, Cheng Xiao said politely as he accepted the uniform. Then, with Tang San, they left the administrative office. Carrying their uniforms, the two boys soon found their dormitory, as instructed by the staff at the office. Since they were work-study students, they were assigned to the work-study dormitory, Dorm 7. Before they even entered, Cheng Xiao and Tang San could hear the ruckus coming from inside. Pushing the door open, they saw 7 or 8 children roughhousing, none of whom noticed the two newcomers. Hey, are you the new work-study students? At that moment, an older boy walked toward them. Yes, we are. Is there a problem? Cheng Xiao squinted slightly, eyeing the boy who was approaching with wide strides. Is he planning to establish dominance on the first day of school? Tang San stood silently beside Cheng Xiao, watching the boy who was at least 2 heads taller than him. Since you're in Dorm 7, you need to follow Dorm 7's rules. The tall boy looked down at them and said, My name is Wang Sheng. My spirit is the Battle Tiger, and I'm a future Battle Soul Master. I'm also the boss of Dorm 7. What are your names? What are your spirits? Cheng Xiao and Tang San exchanged glances before reporting their names and spirits. Blue silver grass. Shadow. What kind of trash spirits are those? Wang Sheng exaggerated his expression, bursting into laughter. Following his lead, the other children in the dorm also laughed, looking at the two boys as if they were fools. Shadow and blue silver grass sounded like weak, useless spirits, nowhere near as impressive as Wang Sheng's battle tiger. Alright, enough laughing, Wang Sheng waved his hand, looking at Cheng Xiao and Tang San. Now that you're in Dorm 7, you'll have to listen to me from now on, got it? With that, Wang Sheng reached out and gave the seemingly easier to bully Tang San a shove. As for Cheng Xiao, standing beside Tang San, Wang Sheng chose to ignore him. Sometimes, bullies target those who appear weaker, and Tang San was exactly that type in Wang Sheng's eyes. Looks like we'll have to fight, Tang San calmly set down his luggage and uniform. In the next instant, Tang San moved like lightning. In one swift motion, he appeared behind Wang Sheng, bent his right arm slightly, and struck Wang Sheng's waist with an elbow while kicking his right leg into Wang Sheng's calf, bringing him down to the floor. You dare ambush me? Wang Sheng roared angrily as he got back on his feet. A faint yellow light enveloped his body as he charged at Tang San with incredible speed, activating his spirit. Watching Wang Sheng activate his spirit, Cheng Xiao shook his head. After all, they were just children, prone to anger and rash decisions. But since Cheng Xiao and Tang San had come together, even though Tang San could easily defeat Wang Sheng, Cheng Xiao felt that he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. So, he joined the fight, helping Tang San face off against Wang Sheng and his lackeys. Ever since receiving the Shadow Monarch's power, coupled with 3 months of continuous training, Cheng Xiao's physical abilities had improved significantly. Facing these dorm mates, none of whom were even one-ring soul masters, was a simple task. As the other boys rushed toward him, Cheng Xiao clenched his fist. In an instant, he charged at one of them. The boy saw Cheng Xiao coming and hastily threw a punch at him. Cheng Xiao dodged to the left, his fist striking the boy's abdomen before he quickly withdrew it. Then, he spun around, targeting the other boys who hadn't yet reacted. Ah! Don't hit my face. Please don't hit my face. Boss, help me, ah! Amidst the cries of pain, Tang San turned around to see several boys lying on the ground, clutching various parts of their bodies and groaning in agony. The others, who hadn't joined the fray, stood obediently on the sidelines, too scared to make a sound. Cheng Xiao, who had caused all this, was already holding his uniform and luggage, calmly selecting a bed as if the groaning boys on the ground had nothing to do with him. What the? Wang Sheng's eyes widened as he stared at his beaten-up lackeys. His voice trembled. Cheng Xiao is the real tough guy. Wang Sheng. Come help me make the bed, Cheng Xiao called. Yes. Wang Sheng quickly scrambled to his feet, a fawning smile on his face as he rushed over to help Cheng Xiao. Seeing this, Tang San shook his head and chose an empty bed to begin setting up. Tang San, did you use a soul skill earlier? Having been beaten, Wang Sheng and the others had lost their earlier arrogance and were now trying to strike up friendly conversation. After the fight, they could clearly tell that neither Cheng Xiao nor Tang San were to be trifled with. Wang Sheng soon explained the unwritten rules of the work-study students and strongly recommended that Cheng Xiao be the boss of the work-study students. After all, the events that had just unfolded were still fresh in everyone's minds. I think Tang San should be the boss instead. Cheng Xiao wasn't interested in Wang Sheng's flattery and decisively refused the offer, recommending Tang San as the dorm leader. All right then, Wang Sheng sighed, shifting his gaze to Tang San. Tang San was about to refuse as well, but when he saw the hopeful expressions on Wang Sheng and the others' faces, he felt a sense of responsibility to protect the weak. This feeling was often called a sense of justice. As a disciple of the Tang sect, how could he not possess such a sense of justice? Unable to refuse, Tang San was about to agree when a crisp voice came from outside. Excuse me, is this dorm 7? Everyone turned to see a girl standing at the door. Her face was rosy, her long scorpion braid reaching down past her waist. Her large, bright eyes sparkled with curiosity as she peered into the dorm. The boys, none of whom had ever seen such a sight, were stunned, speechless and wide-eyed. Cheng Xiao also noticed the girl at the door but didn't pay much attention. After all, Xiao Wu was only 6 years old, how beautiful could she possibly be at that age? 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 5. Just a little skilled in martial arts. Can we have co-ed dorms here? Tang San couldn't help but ask Wang Sheng in a low voice. Wang Sheng nodded and, lowering his voice, explained the school's dormitory assignment rules to Tang San. After explaining, Wang Sheng added, Boss, go on, give her a little lesson. Best if you go hard on her, make her suffer a bit. Tang San initially wanted to refuse. Bullying a girl wasn't something he could bring himself to do, but Wang Sheng's mouth was too persuasive. After a few words of encouragement, Tang San still stepped forward and started speaking. My name is Xiao Wu, Wu as in, dance. Xiao Wu introduced herself with a sweet smile. Seeing Xiao Wu's sweet smile, Tang San's face flushed slightly. Stammering, he explained the rules of Dorm 7 and then introduced himself, mentioning his martial spirit. He followed that by challenging Xiao Wu to a spar to determine who would be the dorm leader. Xiao Wu placed her uniform to the side, excitement flashing across her face as she said, all right, let's do it. The next moment, Xiao Wu launched an attack on Tang San. The two exchanged blows for a few rounds before Tang San suddenly froze. At this moment, Cheng Xiao had already predicted the outcome of the duel. Tang San, in his past life, should have been quite mature by now, right? But facing a young girl like Xiao Wu, he was blushing and getting distracted during a fight. Isn't that a bit too? After losing to Xiao Wu, Tang San was unwilling but accepted the loss without making excuses. In his heart, he thought to himself, next time, I will win. He then said, according to the dorm rules, since you won, you're now our leader. Leader. Sounds fun. Alright, I'll be your leader from now on. So, who's going to introduce me to the school? After the duel ended, Wang Sheng and the others hadn't quite reacted yet. Who could have predicted that the previous leader would be replaced before even warming the seat? Seeing that no one responded to her, Xiaowu pouted and scanned the room with her eyes, finally resting her gaze on Cheng Xiao, who was sitting on the bed. Before even entering the room, Xiaowu had noticed this boy with a delicate appearance. Although she didn't yet know his name, she confidently called out to him. "Hey, you over there sitting on the bed, tell me about the school." Cheng Xiao looked up, meeting the eyes of everyone in the dorm. Their gazes held a mix of worry and envy. Although they feared Xiaowu's strength, she was still a girl, after all. The students weren't very old, and it was rare to have a girl in their dorm. Not everyone would get the chance to be noticed by a girl, especially one as pretty as Xiaowu. The envy was understandable. "You're talking to me?" Cheng Xiao felt a bit annoyed. Shouldn't she be paying more attention to Tang San because of his blue-silver grass aura? "I'm Cheng Xiao, also a new working student. I don't really know much about the school. Why don't you ask Wang Sheng? He knows more." Cheng Xiao pointed to Wang Sheng. "I don't care. I'm the leader now, and when the leader gives an order, you have to listen." Xiao Wu was a bit displeased. Compared to the average-looking Wang Sheng, she preferred Cheng Xiao to explain. Leader." Wang Sheng gritted his teeth and stood up. "Cheng Xiao just arrived, so maybe I should explain it to you." "I don't care." Xiao Wu pouted and turned to Cheng Xiao. "If you won't explain, then you'll have to fight me." Upon hearing this, Wang Sheng, who had initially planned to leave a good impression on Cheng Xiao, immediately clammed up. Though Cheng Xiao was strong, Xiao Wu seemed to be stronger. From his perspective, Cheng Xiao had the power to beat up his lackeys, so his strength was undeniable. However, compared to Tang San, who had lost to Xiao Wu, Cheng Xiao probably wouldn't stand a chance against her. Seeing Xiao Wu's insistence, Cheng Xiao sighed. "I don't know how to fight. I admit you're the leader, but I really don't know much about the school." Xiao Wu bit her lip, her expression firm. "No. I must fight you." "Alright, if it's unavoidable, might as well face it." Since Xiao Wu was so persistent, Cheng Xiao had no choice but to agree. "Fine, we can fight. But after this, no matter who wins, don't bother me anymore." Cheng Xiao got out of bed, spread his hands, and said helplessly. It was true that he wasn't a fighter, he only knew a bit of martial arts, after all. "HMPH, let's fight first." With a light snort, Xiao Wu bent her right knee, her toes shooting straight towards Cheng Xiao's chin. Cheng Xiao shifted his body to the left, dodging Xiao Wu's kick while grabbing her ankle with his right hand. Using her momentum, he swung her backwards. Xiao Wu reacted quickly. She immediately planted her hands on the ground, twisting her body and sending her other leg towards Cheng Xiao. However, Cheng Xiao blocked her kick with his left hand. He then released his grip, causing Xiao Wu to lose her balance and fall to the ground with a thud. "Ouch, that hurt." Xiao Wu winced in pain, her face scrunched up as she sat on the ground. Wow, Cheng Xiao beat the boss. Wang Sheng and the others were dumbfounded. The same Xiao Wu who had defeated Tang San had just lost to Cheng Xiao. Not only had he won, but he had won easily, although it seemed he wasn't exactly gentle about it. Wang Sheng discreetly gave Cheng Xiao a thumbs up. No wonder he had recognized Cheng Xiao as the true leader. "Sorry, I didn't mean to be so rough." Cheng Xiao stepped forward and offered his hand. "This doesn't count." "I was careless," Xiao Wu said, clutching her sore backside as she stood up with his help. Cheng Xiao smiled slightly. "We agreed earlier, win or lose, you wouldn't bother me anymore." Xiao Wu's expression changed. She stomped her foot angrily, turned to the others with her hands on her hips, and barked, "Did I agree to his terms earlier?" "No, we didn't hear anything." Wang Sheng and the others exchanged glances and shook their heads rapidly. "HMPH, see. I didn't agree." Xiao Wu was pleased with their response. Cheng Xiao ignored her antics and returned to his bed. Seeing this, Xiao Wu pouted and cheerfully followed him. It seemed her sore bottom was no longer an issue. "Cheng Xiao, didn't you say you don't know how to fight?" Xiao Wu sat on the empty bed next to Cheng Xiao, curiosity in her eyes. "I don't. I only know a bit of martial arts," Cheng Xiao said calmly. "Are the new working students here? Come out for a moment." At that moment, a teacher in his 30s entered the room. Cheng Xiao, Tang San, and Xiao Wu all stood up. I'm Mo Hen, you can call me Teacher Mo. Here are the blankets the school has assigned to you. Mo Hen said, handing 2 blankets to the students. Cheng Xiao and Tang San took the blankets, noticing they were brand new, with pillows tucked inside. Mo Hen added, since you're working students, you'll be responsible for cleaning the garden near the sports field. It's 10 copper soul coins per day. But remember, it must be cleaned every day, or your pay will be docked. The 3 nodded in acknowledgement. After delivering the message, Mo Hen left. Holding the blanket in his arms, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but wonder if the academy was treating him differently because of his innate full spirit power. Tang San, on the other hand, didn't overthink it. He simply returned to his bed with the blanket. Xiao Wu stared blankly at Cheng Xiao's blanket, a hint of embarrassment in her eyes. Mo Hen had only brought 2 blankets, and they had been given to Cheng Xiao and Tang San. Now, Xiao Wu was the only one in the dorm without a blanket. Wang Sheng and the other working students noticed Xiao Wu's predicament and immediately offered to gather a set of bedding for her. But after taking one look at their ragged, worn blankets, Xiao Wu couldn't bring herself to accept. Cheng Xiao, let's make a deal. Seeing that Cheng Xiao hadn't made his bed yet, Xiao Wu's eyes lit up. Huh. What deal? Cheng Xiao looked up, meeting her eager gaze. Your blanket is pretty big. I think it could easily cover 2 people. How about we push our beds together and share? MC's reference. 6 comments 0 vote. Chapter 6. Learning Theory, Is It Still Necessary to Have a Mentor? Sharing the bed. Seeing Cheng Xiao's shocked expression, Xiao Wu couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. But thinking about how she wouldn't have a blanket to sleep with at night, she huffed and said, I'm not scared, so what are you afraid of? What? A boy like you is this timid? You. Cheng Xiao was at a loss for words due to Xiao Wu's sharp retort. Wang Sheng and the others, watching them, looked on enviously. After all, she was the only girl in the dormitory. All right, come over and help me make the bed. Before Cheng Xiao could refuse, Xiao Wu quickly pushed the 2 beds together. Looking at her handiwork with satisfaction, she clapped her hands and smiled sweetly, waving at Cheng Xiao. After making the bed and seeing the 2 beds joined together, Cheng Xiao fell into deep thought. If Xiao Wu was going to sleep here, what about Tang San? Just then, Wang Sheng called out to the 3 of them, Boss Cheng, Tang San, Sister Xiao Wu, it's lunchtime. Let's go eat. Seeing the beds all tidied up, Wang Sheng addressed the trio. At the mention of food, Tang San shook his head and said, I don't have any money. I'll just eat some dry food here in the dorm. You guys go ahead. Huh. Money. Do you mean spirit coins? Xiao Wu asked curiously, her eyes wide. Her innocent question made Wang Sheng sweat. He realized that both Tang San and Xiao Wu were broke. If they weren't so strong, he would have wanted to scold them outright. Boss Cheng, don't tell me you don't have money either. Wang Sheng whispered as he leaned closer to Cheng Xiao. I have some, but not much, Cheng Xiao replied thoughtfully. His grandfather had given him some money before he came, enough for meals at least. That's good. Some is better than none. Wang Sheng said excitedly upon hearing that Cheng Xiao had money. Since they were all working students, Wang Sheng only had enough money to treat 2 people to a meal. But he couldn't just leave one person out, could he? You can treat Tang San and Xiao Wu, Cheng Xiao said, shaking his head. He didn't like owing people favors. All right, Sister Xiao Wu, Tang San, let's go eat, Wang Sheng said boldly. Tang San hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. His family's money had all been taken by Tang Hao to buy alcohol, leaving him utterly broke. But if someone was treating, he wouldn't refuse. As for Xiao Wu, she blinked her large, watery eyes, and Wang Sheng's generosity made her develop a slight fondness for him. But what intrigued her more was Cheng Xiao, who, despite being a new working student like them, seemed a bit different. A few minutes later, Wang Sheng led the group from dorm 7 to the cafeteria. The cafeteria was large enough to accommodate 6 classes plus the teachers, totaling about 300 people. As Cheng Xiao and the others entered the cafeteria, an unpleasant voice echoed through the air. Aren't these the poor working students? Wang Sheng, do you really think you deserve to eat in the cafeteria? The sudden mockery caused the newly arrived group from dorm 7 to pause. They looked toward the source of the voice and saw a group of older students standing on the staircase between the first and second floors, looking down at them with disdain. The one speaking was named Xiao Chanu, a notorious bully at Nuoding Academy, largely because he had a well-connected father. Wang Sheng, you poor souls will only ever be able to eat on the first floor, Xiao Chanu said smugly. As soon as he finished, the lackeys around him burst into laughter. Hearing their jeering laughter, the working students all lowered their heads. They didn't come from prestigious backgrounds like Xiao Chanu and his gang, and as he said, they couldn't afford the food on the second floor. Seeing the older students taunt them, Xiao Wu was infuriated and retorted, "Who do you think you are? What's so special about the second floor? Oh, what a pretty little girl. Too bad she's just a working student. Wang Sheng, I'm going to eat now, so I'll let you poor souls off this time." Xiao Chanu laughed as he turned toward the second floor cafeteria where meals were ordered individually. Seeing them leave, Xiao Wu, still fuming, lifted her foot, ready to charge after them, but Tang San quickly stopped her. "Xiao Wu, let it go. We're here to eat. Why are you so afraid of confrontation?" Xiao Wu glared at Tang San before turning to Cheng Xiao, who hadn't said a word. "That guy's bullying us. Am I wrong for standing up to him?" "You're not wrong. It's just not the right time," Cheng Xiao said calmly, glancing at Xiao Chanu and his gang. "We'll get our chance to teach them a lesson, don't you think?" Xiao Wu thought for a moment. "You might have a point." Hearing this, Tang San couldn't help but regard Cheng Xiao with more respect. He wasn't wrong. But from Tang San's perspective, as someone with the mentality of an adult, this was just child's play. He didn't feel the need to explain further to Xiao Wu. Even so, Tang San silently recited the Tang Sect's rules in his mind. Just then, Tang San spotted someone familiar and quickly walked over. "Teacher, are you here to eat too?" "Yes, Xiao San. Since you're here, why don't you join me on the second floor?" The Grand Master affectionately patted Tang San's head. The second floor. Tang San glanced toward the second floor, remembering Xiao Chanu's mocking words. He looked at his dorm mates, who were lining up for food, hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Teacher, I think I'll stay here and eat with my dorm mates." "All right then. Wait for me at the cafeteria entrance when you're done," the Grand Master said as he headed up to the second floor. Seeing this, Wang Sheng nudged Cheng Xiao, who was ahead in the food line, and whispered, "Boss Cheng, does Tang San know the Grand Master?" Cheng Xiao nodded slightly. Tang San became the Grand Master's apprentice. What? Tang San apprenticed under the Grand Master? Wang Sheng exclaimed, just as Tang San, who had come to line up for food, overheard him. "Wang Sheng, is there something wrong with me becoming the Grand Master's apprentice?" Tang San asked, frowning. Tang San. Wang Sheng hesitated, looking a bit awkward. He finally said, "The Grand Master's abilities aren't that impressive. They say he's only kept at the academy because of his relationship with the principal. To put it bluntly, he's living off others. He's over 50 and hasn't even reached level 29. I suggest you find a better teacher." Tang San's expression grew serious. Staring directly at Wang Sheng, he said, "If you don't want me to knock you down again, don't speak ill of my teacher behind his back. This is the first and the last time. I don't need you to treat me anymore." With that, Tang San turned and headed to the second floor. At first, he had worried that eating with the Grand Master would upset his dorm mates, but now, he didn't care anymore. Wang Sheng hadn't expected Tang San to react so strongly and stood frozen in place. Xiao Wu and the other students lining up were equally baffled by his behavior. Wang Sheng had been genuinely trying to warn Tang San. After all, they'd been at Nuoding Academy for years. It wasn't like they would deceive a new working student, right? "Cheng Xiao, is Tang San always like this?" Xiao Wu asked, confused. "I don't know. I'm not that close with him. We just happened to meet during enrollment," Cheng Xiao replied, shaking his head. "Boss Cheng, you said you and Tang San enrolled together." Wang Sheng suddenly seemed to realize something. He apprenticed under the Grand Master. Don't tell me you also became his student. As soon as he said this, everyone, including Xiao Wu, looked toward Cheng Xiao. "No, I didn't," Cheng Xiao said indifferently. He then shared the story of how the Grand Master had tried to take him as a disciple during enrollment. After hearing Cheng Xiao's story, the working students of Dorm 7 got their food and sat together, quietly discussing the Grand Master's actions. Damn, Boss Cheng, good thing you weren't interested in spirit theory, Wang Sheng said, biting into a steamed bun. All that so-called spirit theory the Grand Master talks about, the teachers cover it in class anyway. Sure, it's not as detailed as the Grand Master, but it's still good enough. Exactly. Spirit theory is just basic stuff. The teachers teach it in class. Why would anyone need to apprentice under someone just to learn theory? Otherwise, why even go to school? Boss Cheng, Sister Xiao Wu, you're both innately gifted with full spirit power. Don't let the Grand Master fool you. We have a library here at Nuoding Academy, and if you don't understand something, you can always ask the teachers in class. There's no need to become someone's apprentice just to learn theory. The working students from Dorm 7 chatted excitedly over their simple meal of buns and soup. Sitting next to Cheng Xiao, Xiao Wu listened to their chatter, seemingly deep in thought. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7. The Restless Xiao Wu. Xiao-san, did you have a disagreement with your roommates? The Grand Master looked at Tang San, who was devouring his meal voraciously at the table, and asked calmly. Teacher, Tang San put down the chicken leg in his hand, seeming a bit hesitant. No need to explain. The Grand Master seemed to see through Tang San's dilemma and said in a calm tone, I don't care about those rumors and gossip. What matters is you. You're still growing, and a poor diet won't do you any good. From now on, you'll eat with me on the second floor. No need to have meals with them on the first floor anymore. Thank you, teacher. Tang San stood up and bowed deeply to the Grand Master. He hadn't expected his teacher to be so noble, remaining unmoved by the rumors. Such a person truly deserved to be his teacher. All right, Xiao San, no need for such formalities between master and disciple. The Grand Master waved his hand, signaling Tang San to sit down and continue eating. Tang San nodded and sat back in his chair, resuming his meal with great enthusiasm. Back when he was in Holy Spirit Village, he didn't even have enough to eat. Every day, he had to survive on porridge so thin you couldn't see a single grain of rice. Now, with a teacher who treated him so well, he not only felt a sense of affection but also deepened his respect for the Grand Master. Meanwhile, on the first floor of the dining hall. After lunch, Cheng Xiao didn't head back to the dormitory immediately. Instead, after asking around for a bit, he went to the library of Nuoding Primary Soul Master Academy, planning to gather some knowledge about soul rings before going out to hunt for one. Since his martial soul didn't belong to this world, Cheng Xiao wanted to first study the different types of soul beasts. His martial soul, the Shadow Monarch, was the king of death, so he would need to look for soul beasts related to shadows or death, ones whose attributes match the Shadow Monarch's. After finishing his research on soul beasts and their attributes, Cheng Xiao took a deep breath, returned the books to their shelves, and quickly left the library. But instead of returning to the dormitory, Cheng Xiao headed straight for the academy's administrative office. He intended to ask a teacher to accompany him to acquire his first soul ring. Excuse me, is anyone here? Cheng Xiao knocked lightly on the door as he stepped into the office. Yes, come in. An older teacher inside glanced at Cheng Xiao and gestured for him to enter. Cheng Xiao nodded and approached the elderly teacher confidently. Your name is Cheng Xiao, right? I remember you. You're the genius with innate full soul power. Director Su recognized Cheng Xiao as the new student who had enrolled earlier that day, a student with full soul power from birth. He smiled and said, What brings you to the administrative office? Cheng Xiao replied, Director Su, I do have something to discuss. Go ahead. Let's see if I can help you. Director Su put down the documents he had been working on. He took special interest in a student like Cheng Xiao, who had innate full soul power. If it were any other working student without talent or background, he wouldn't have bothered. I want to obtain my first soul ring, Cheng Xiao said. Your first soul ring? Wait, what? You want to acquire your first soul ring? Director Su stood up in surprise. Do you know that you need to reach level 10 in soul power to acquire a soul ring? How can you? Before he could finish speaking, Director Su remembered that Cheng Xiao indeed had innate full soul power. Clearing his throat, he corrected himself. Cheng Xiao, I know you're innately full of soul power, so you can obtain your first soul ring, but... Director Su then explained that since the new school year had just begun, the academy's teachers were all occupied and couldn't accompany him to the soul hunting forest. Cheng Xiao understood but couldn't hide his disappointment. Seeing this, Director Su felt a bit helpless. It was true that the start of the school year was a busy time, and the teachers simply couldn't find the time. How about this, Director Su? Tomorrow, I'll take the boy to the soul hunting forest myself, a voice said. A middle-aged man in a black robe, with a gentle smile on his somewhat handsome face, walked into the office. Principal. What brings you here? Director Su quickly greeted the man with respect and said, this child is a prodigy with innate full soul power. Enough, Director Su, the middle-aged man waved him off with a smile. I've read his file. A top-tier beast martial soul and innate full soul power, such a talent appearing at our Nuoding Academy is something I, as the principal, have to personally attend to. Upon hearing this, Director Su beamed with pride. Let's head out together tomorrow. I was already planning to take my disciple to hunt for a soul ring, the Grand Master said, suddenly appearing at the door of the office, standing with his hands behind his back, exuding an aura of mystery. All right, Xiaogang, the principal patted the Grand Master on the shoulder with a smile. This time, your theories will surely succeed. Of course. I've taken in an excellent disciple, the Grand Master replied calmly, as if taking on a disciple was as simple as his martial soul research. However, his gaze briefly fell on Cheng Xiao. Though it was only for a moment, Cheng Xiao noticed it. Cheng Xiao didn't say much. After all, he was going to hunt for his soul ring, and having the Grand Master around provided an extra layer of security, though he wasn't sure if he would need it. All right, it's settled then, the principal said with a smile, turning to Cheng Xiao. Go get some rest. We'll meet at the academy gate tomorrow morning. I understand. Thank you, Principal, Cheng Xiao said politely before leaving the office. When Cheng Xiao returned to the dormitory, he immediately noticed Xiao Wu lying on her bed, kicking her legs playfully. He glanced at the other beds and saw that Wang Sheng and the others were meditating to cultivate their soul power, while Tang San lay with his eyes closed, seemingly preparing for tomorrow's hunt. Lying on his bed, Cheng Xiao ignored Xiao Wu and closed his eyes to rest, thinking about the type of soul beast he would need to find for his soul ring. Hey, why are you acting like Tang San and going to sleep so early when it's not even nighttime? Xiao Wu's voice suddenly rang out. Cheng Xiao hadn't actually fallen asleep, and his eyes opened instinctively, just in time to see Xiao Wu's cute face. See, you weren't even asleep, Xiao Wu said, pouting at him. What would you have done if I had been? Cheng Xiao sat up, leaned against the wall behind his bed, and said calmly, don't tell me you have some urgent matter to discuss with me at night. I was just bored, Xiao Wu muttered in a low voice, sensing Cheng Xiao's indifferent expression. Seeing Xiao Wu's apologetic face, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but scratch his head and said, I'm going to the soul hunting forest tomorrow, so I plan to sleep early. Is that all right? Soul hunting? Xiao Wu froze for a moment. School hasn't even started, and you're already going hunting. Are soul rings really that important? What do you think? Cheng Xiao flicked Xiao Wu's forehead, annoyed. Get some rest. I have to get up early tomorrow. After saying this, Cheng Xiao lay back down under the covers, ignoring the now sulking Xiao Wu, and closed his eyes to sleep. However, Xiao Wu wasn't having it. Watching Cheng Xiao burrow under his blanket, she bit her lip and thought, you want to sleep early? I won't let you. Then, as if she'd thought of something mischievous, Xiao Wu also lifted Cheng Xiao's blanket and snuck in. Her restless hands slowly reached for his waist, and as her plan was about to succeed, a triumphant smile spread across her face. Let's see how Sister Xiao Wu deals with you. 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8. Setting off to hunt soul ring. The next morning. While most of the teachers and students at Nuoding Academy were still asleep, 2 tall and 2 short figures had already left the academy's gates. Master, is this your new disciple? The headmaster looked at Tang San, who was walking beside the master, and smiled. Yes, this is my disciple, Tang San. The master nodded calmly and said, although Xiao San's martial soul is the blue-silver grass, widely known as a useless martial soul, I believe that there are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters. With my guidance in martial soul theory, his future achievements will be nothing less than that of a title Douluo. Ha ha ha, I hope that's the case. The headmaster gave an awkward smile. By the way, headmaster, I don't believe I know your name yet. Cheng Xiao looked up at the headmaster and asked. My surname is Ma, and my name is Nuo. You can just call me Headmaster Ma, the headmaster replied with a smile. Alright, Headmaster Ma, Cheng Xiao responded. Oh, I almost forgot, Cheng Xiao. Do you know where we are going to hunt soul beasts? Ma Nuo asked. I don't, Cheng Xiao shook his head, looking puzzled. We're heading to the soul hunting forest, about 400 miles east of Nuoding City. It's a place where the Empire keeps soul beasts, Ma Nuo smiled. But before we go hunting, we need to help the master prepare some things. Prepare some things? Cheng Xiao was slightly taken aback, but after a moment, he seemed to recall something and nodded silently. As the sun gradually rose from the east, more and more people appeared in the streets of Nuoding City. Vendors loudly promoted their goods, making the scene lively and bustling. The master's preparations were simple. 4 water flasks, some dry rations for the journey, cured meat, fruit, and other food items. Lastly, the master bought a full 20 pounds of white radishes, which clearly had an important purpose. Teacher, why are you buying all these radishes? Tang San asked, panting as he struggled to carry a basket of white radishes. If not for his training in the mysterious heaven skill, he might not have been able to lift it. Looking at the 20 pounds of radishes, Headmaster Ma sighed helplessly. As the master's friend, he knew exactly what the radishes were for. The master didn't answer Tang San immediately. As a renowned theorist, his lips curled into a rare, bitter smile. He patted Tang San's head and said, I'll explain it to you later. After all the preparations were complete, Headmaster Ma hired a 4-person carriage within the city. With the carriage ready, the group finally set off toward their destination. Along the way, the master continued to explain martial soul theories to Tang San, and even gifted him a belt with a blue sheen. Holding the belt in his hands, Tang San named it 24 Moonlit Bridges. Tang San had no reason to refuse this gift from the master, especially considering that in his previous life in the Tang sect, there was a principle of never declining a gift from a senior. After giving Tang San the belt, the master glanced at Cheng Xiao out of the corner of his eye, hoping to show him that by becoming his disciple, he too could receive similar gifts as Tang San. However, the master was destined to be disappointed. After getting on the carriage, Cheng Xiao leaned against one side and closed his eyes to rest. Even Headmaster Ma was puzzled, wondering if this child hadn't slept well because he was too excited about hunting a soul ring today. What they didn't know was that Xiao Wu had gone out of her way the previous night to keep Cheng Xiao from falling asleep early, using all sorts of little tricks. But Cheng Xiao wasn't impressed by her antics and remained indifferent. After seeing that Cheng Xiao was immune to tickling, Xiao Wu could only pout and go to sleep. But it was only after Xiao Wu fell asleep that Cheng Xiao had trouble sleeping, because when she fell asleep, The journey of 400 miles wasn't too long nor too short. After leaving Nuoding City, it was noon the next day when the 4 finally arrived at their destination, the soul hunting forest. After catching up on sleep in the carriage, Cheng Xiao followed Headmaster Ma off the vehicle, hearing various sounds around him. Soul hunting orders. Group forming to hunt a century-old soul beast. Any soul master needing a soul ring, come take a look. Hunting a strength-type soul beast. 7-man team, need an order. 10 gold soul coins. Similar cries echoed from all directions, and Cheng Xiao started to get a rough understanding of the soul hunting forest. It was more like a game dungeon in an online game, with these shouting soul masters behaving much like mercenaries. The marketplace was bustling, but Cheng Xiao and his companions quickly walked out of the crowd. As they saw the vast forest ahead, for some reason, Cheng Xiao's heart began to pound. A familiar feeling surged within him. The shadow power within me is surging. Is this the same sensation Sung Jin Woo experienced when leveling up in the dungeon? Cheng Xiao wondered. He was different from Sung Jin Woo, who had a system created by the designer, helping him adapt to the Shadow Monarch's power in a way akin to a game. That system itself was a manifestation of the Shadow Monarch's power. As for Cheng Xiao, because the designer who created the system had already died, the Shadow Monarch chose another method, storing its power within Cheng Xiao's body. As he grew stronger and gained levels, the shadow power within him would gradually be released, becoming his own strength. The outer perimeter of the soul-hunting forest was surrounded by a massive steel fence, towering over 10 meters high, and looking incredibly sturdy. Outside the fence, over 100 soldiers patrolled, guarding the Empire's soul beast preserve, the soul-hunting forest. Let's go. At the entrance to the forest, Headmaster Ma handed a token to one of the guards. The black token had a strange design engraved on it, made up of 3 distinct symbols, a sword in the center, with a hammer on one side and a dragon on the other. The soldier confirmed the validity of the token and immediately ordered his men to open a path, allowing Cheng Xiao and the others into the forest. Upon entering the soul-hunting forest, the master's previously weary eyes suddenly brightened. He formed a seal with his hands in front of his chest. Come out. Luo San Pao. 2 yellow soul rings rose from beneath the master's feet, followed by a surge of soul power from his body. With a flash of purple light, a creature that looked like a cross between a pig and a dog appeared before them. Luo San Pao had light purple fur, drooping ears, and deep blue eyes that stared into the depths of the forest. Its chubby, ungainly body made it seem clumsy, and its appearance was distinctly different from that of an ordinary dog. If one had to name it, it would definitely be a cross between a pig and a pig dog. Master, your martial soul is really unique. It can even exist outside your body. Cheng Xiao squatted down, petted Luo San Pao's head, and smiled at the master. My martial soul mutated, and unfortunately, it was in a bad direction. The master shook his head, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. If it weren't for his innate soul power being less than half a rank, he wouldn't have walked so far down the path of martial soul research. But it was fine. He had accepted a genius disciple with innate full soul power, and a twin martial soul at that. As long as he could cultivate Tang San into a powerhouse, who would dare look down on him, Yu Shaogang, in the future? Cheng Xiao, the master's martial soul is indeed special. In a way, the master is also a rare genius, but life is unpredictable, Headmaster Ma sighed. He felt deep regret about his friend's martial soul. Alright, let's not talk about my martial soul anymore. The master's expression turned serious. Let's focus on hunting soul beasts. Finding a soul beast that matches one's martial soul is no easy task. With that, the master gave an order to Luo San Pao. Luo San Pao, lead the way. 6 comments 0 vote. Chapter 9. My judgment has never been wrong. After receiving the master's orders, Luo San Pao swaggered towards the forest ahead. Although its body was a bit chubby and cumbersome, its 4 short legs moved rather nimbly, and it sniffed around as it walked. Pointing to Luo San Pao, who was clearing the path ahead, the master looked at Tang San and said, Xiao San, haven't you always wanted to know what my martial spirit is? Tang San nodded upon hearing this. This is my martial spirit, its name is Luo San Pao. Its special trait is an incredibly keen sense of smell, able to track the whereabouts of low-level spirit beasts. This is extremely helpful for us in finding the spirit beasts we need to hunt. After saying that, the master pulled out a short sword with a clear blue blade from his robe and handed it to Tang San. Due to the nature of spirit rings, only a spirit master who personally kills a spirit beast can absorb its spirit ring. Thus, to be cautious, the master gave the short sword to Tang San so that when they found the right spirit beast, Tang San could personally hunt it. At the same time, he was subtly implying to Cheng Xiao that Tang San's decision to take him as a master was the right one. However, Cheng Xiao's attention wasn't on the master at all. After arriving in the spirit hunting forest, Cheng Xiao noticed something strange about his Shadow King martial spirit. The shadow power within him seemed to be on the verge of breaking through a bottleneck, yet he hadn't even obtained his first spirit ring. He could only suppress the unusual sensation within his body, realizing that he needed to quickly find a spirit beast suitable for himself. Sensing something off with Cheng Xiao, Headmaster Ma asked, Cheng Xiao, are you all right? I'm fine, Dean. Cheng Xiao shook his head, not revealing the strange feeling in his body. It wasn't that he didn't trust Headmaster Ma, but because he wasn't originally from Douluo Continent, and his martial spirit wasn't inherited from his parents. Even if he spoke up, it would only cause unnecessary trouble. Alright, but if anything happens, make sure you speak up right away, Headmaster Ma said, frowning. When absorbing a spirit ring, a spirit master must adjust their state carefully. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, your entire life could be ruined. Thank you for the reminder, Headmaster Ma. I understand. Cheng Xiao smiled and nodded to show that he understood. Seeing this, Headmaster Ma didn't press further. He had already said what needed to be said. Now it was up to Cheng Xiao to decide how to proceed. After walking for a while, Luo Sanpao, who was scouting ahead, suddenly stopped. Its large eyes were fixed in one direction, and it let out a series of nervous sounds. Teacher, what's wrong with Sanpao? Tang San asked curiously, noticing Luo Sanpao had stopped. No need to worry. The master smiled calmly, as if everything was under control. He pointed to a dark plant ahead, barely visible in the shadows, and explained, we're quite lucky. We've just encountered a century-old spirit beast, a shadow vine. A shadow vine? Tang San's gaze shifted to Cheng Xiao. Doesn't that plant-type spirit beast suit Cheng Xiao's martial spirit? You once said that although the shadow vine is a plant-type spirit beast, it has a unique trait that other plant types lack, sharpness. Exactly. The shadow vine is quite special among plant-type spirit beasts. Cheng Xiao, I recall your martial spirit is the top-tier shadow soldier, right? The master looked at Cheng Xiao and said indifferently, why not use this shadow vine as your first spirit ring? Based on my judgment, there's a high chance you'll gain a sharpness-related ability after absorbing it. Master, maybe we shouldn't rush to conclusions, Headmaster Ma interrupted, patting the master's shoulder. Cheng Xiao's martial spirit is a top-tier beast spirit we've never seen before. While it contains the word, shadow, it's also a soldier spirit. I think we should continue searching and see if we can find a more fitting spirit beast. What do you think? No, even though Cheng Xiao's martial spirit is a top-tier beast spirit, this shadow vine will grant him a sharp ability. No matter how special his martial spirit is, it won't stray from the category of beast martial spirits. With the sharpness of the shadow vine, his attack power will increase significantly. The master persisted, standing by his judgment. As a renowned theorist of martial spirits, the master firmly believed in his insights. Even though Cheng Xiao's martial spirit was something he had never seen before, as long as it was a beast spirit, acquiring a sharp ability from the first spirit ring was appropriate. Let Cheng Xiao decide. After all, it's his spirit ring, Headmaster Ma suggested, though feeling slightly slighted after being contradicted by the master. My judgment has never been wrong, the master said calmly. Master, I think the dean's suggestion makes sense. We should search a bit more, Cheng Xiao thought for a moment before rejecting the master's proposal. Although what the master said seemed logical, it didn't necessarily apply to him. The master didn't expect Cheng Xiao to refuse, and his expression changed. In a cold tone, he said, suit yourself, then. With that, the master stopped looking at Cheng Xiao. He had intended to take Cheng Xiao as a disciple, but after being rejected multiple times, his patience was wearing thin. After all, even a mild-tempered person has their limits, let alone someone as renowned as him. Seeing this scene unfold, Tang San sighed inwardly. Cheng Xiao is really foolish. My teacher has studied martial spirit theory for decades. How could he make a mistake when it comes to choosing a spirit ring? Naturally, Cheng Xiao wasn't aware of what the master and Tang San were thinking. He couldn't read minds, and besides, he genuinely didn't want to absorb the Shadow Vine's spirit ring. Just because it had the word, shadow, in it didn't mean it was a perfect match for him. At that moment, Luo Sanpao's calls sounded again. Due to its abilities, the master immediately became alert and looked towards another direction in the forest. It seems there's something approaching. Be cautious, everyone, the master warned coldly. What is it? Headmaster Ma stepped up next to the master, asking in confusion. It seems like a pack of spirit beasts is heading our way, and their levels aren't low. The master, though internally nervous, maintained a facade of calm. Hearing this, Headmaster Ma immediately released his martial spirit, Earth Shield. 4 spirit rings, white, yellow, and purple, appeared under his feet, revealing his rank as a spirit ancestor. The presence of a level 40+ spirit master radiated outwards. Headmaster Ma's martial spirit, Earth Shield, as its name implied, was a defensive-type weapon spirit. Unfortunately, his innate spirit power wasn't high, and he hadn't joined any powerful factions in his youth, leaving him without the resources to develop further. He had only barely reached the level of spirit ancestor in his lifetime, but in a small place like Nuoding City, he was still a rare talent. At that moment, both Cheng Xiao and Tang San realized what was about to happen, as a pack of more than 10 nether wolves was closing in on them from ahead. Among the pack, a massive figure shrouded in black mist slowly followed behind the wolves. Seeing this enormous creature surrounded by dark mist, all four people held their breath. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10. The Demon Wolf. The creature within the black mist gradually revealed its true form. It was a wolf-shaped soul beast, far larger than the previous nether wolves, bearing its sharp fangs. It's actually a nether demon wolf. Grandmaster's voice trembled uncontrollably. The nether demon wolf was entirely pitch black, surrounded by an impenetrable black mist. Its body was about 4 meters long, towering over the others, and its dark green eyes glowed eerily. Its tail hung low behind it, shrouded in black mist. The nether demon wolf was a mutated variant of the nether wolf species, possessing speed, strength, and leadership capabilities far beyond that of ordinary nether wolves. It was a natural-born wolf king, also endowed with a terrifying innate skill, the demonic wolf howl. Shouting, although this beast's cultivation hasn't surpassed 1,000 years, its strength is more than a match for a millennium soul beast. Take the 2 children and run. I'll hold it off. Principal Ma's voice was grim as 4 soul rings burst into radiance around him. He raised his martial soul, the earth shield, and charged toward the pack of nether wolves. At Mono's words, a glint flashed through Grandmaster's eyes. Without any hesitation, he grabbed Tang San and Cheng Xiao by the hands, dragging them in the direction they had come from. Tang San, let me teach you a principle. The more rings and bones you have, the more power you wield. The fewer you have, the faster you run. Even when you reach the rank of titled Douluo, this lesson will still hold true. As they fled, Grandmaster took the opportunity to impart wisdom to Tang San. Yes, teacher, I understand, Tang San responded earnestly. Cheng Xiao, being pulled along, was full of exasperation. What kind of logic is this? Even children know that when you can't win, you run. Does escaping really need to be taught? That's ridiculous. Grandmaster's speed was impressive, and his martial soul, Luo Sanpao, wasn't far behind, sprinting along with wide, terrified eyes. For Luo Sanpao, nothing was more important than survival. Meanwhile, Principal Ma, who had stayed behind to face the wolves, was quickly falling into a disadvantage. Though he was a 4-ring soul ancestor, his soul ring configuration wasn't ideal, and as a defensive soul master, he wasn't suited to attack. The constant, draining onslaught from the nether wolves quickly exhausted his soul power, leaving him vulnerable. Finally, the nether demon wolf, which had stayed out of the fight until then, attacked with a single decisive blow, sending Principal Ma flying. He crashed heavily into a tree, blood surging in his chest before he coughed up a mouthful of crimson. Powerless, Principal Ma looked at the nether demon wolf slowly approaching him. Just as Principal Ma believed he was about to be killed, the wolf that had gravely injured him didn't even glance in his direction. After emitting a loud howl, it suddenly turned and raced off in the direction of Grandmaster and the others. The remaining few nether wolves, seeing their leader run off, immediately backed away from Principal Ma. After all, they had only just reached the century mark in cultivation. Facing a soul ancestor would be certain death for them. I survived. Principal Ma was stunned. He had already prepared himself for death, but to his surprise, the nether demon wolf had spared him and went after Grandmaster instead. Although he hadn't stalled them for long, considering Grandmaster's speed, they should have escaped far by now. Within the forest, 3 figures, 1 large and 2 small, darted swiftly among the trees. Several soul beasts eyed the humans curiously, but they were too terrified by the aura of the black mist-covered wolf chasing behind to make a move. Teacher, the nether demon wolf is catching up. Tang San shouted, glancing at the dark shape behind them. Luo Sanpao, stop it. Grandmaster immediately commanded his martial soul. 2 soul rings appeared beneath Grandmaster's feet, and Luo Sanpao halted abruptly. Its body began to swell as though it was preparing to unleash a powerful attack. However, the nether demon wolf, having followed them for a while, paid no attention to the small creature. With a casual swipe of its claws, Luo Sanpao deflated like a popped balloon, flung into the bushes, its fate unknown. Since a martial soul and its host are connected, Grandmaster felt a sharp pain in his abdomen the moment Luo Sanpao was injured. His legs wobbled, but with the nether demon wolf still behind them, he clenched his teeth and kept running. They wouldn't survive if they stopped. Teacher, are you all right? Noticing Grandmaster's distress, Tang San asked hurriedly. I'm fine, Tang San. Just keep running, Grandmaster replied, his face twisted in pain as the ache spread from his abdomen to his limbs. As long as we make it out of the soul-hunting forest, we'll be safe. However, as Grandmaster finished speaking, Tang San's eyes narrowed sharply. His gaze flicked toward Cheng Xiao, who was also running alongside them, and his thoughts darkened. Cheng Xiao, don't blame me for being ruthless. If someone has to die, better it be you. Once teacher and I are safe, I will avenge you. You can rest in peace. Having made up his mind, Tang San quietly lifted his left hand, aiming a concealed sleeve arrow at Cheng Xiao's leg. Whoosh! The cold glint of the arrow shot through the air, headed straight for Cheng Xiao's leg. However, thanks to the enhancement from his shadow force, Cheng Xiao sensed the danger in an instant. He released Grandmaster's hand, halting his running body abruptly and narrowly dodging the arrow. How is that possible? Tang San was horrified. He hadn't expected Cheng Xiao to dodge his silent attack. But no matter, it didn't matter whether he was hit or not. As long as Cheng Xiao slowed down the nether demon wolf, he and Grandmaster would have enough time to escape the forest and call for help. Forget about him, Tang San. Stopping now is no different from asking for death, Grandmaster muttered, not bothering to wonder why Cheng Xiao had stopped. As Tang San and Grandmaster sped away, a cold glint flashed in Cheng Xiao's eyes. No wonder people say it's better to be Xiaoyan's follower than Tang San's brother. Luckily, the shadow force has nourished my body, greatly improving my physical abilities and reflexes. Otherwise, that arrow would have already pierced my leg. Breathing deeply, Cheng Xiao turned around to face the advancing nether demon wolf, which also came to a stop. Staring at the massive wolf beast enveloped in black mist, Cheng Xiao's gaze hardened. His martial soul erupted outwards, casting a layer of darkness over the world. As the Shadow King martial soul was unleashed, dark purple light flickered in Cheng Xiao's eyes, and an overwhelming aura of death burst forth. Sensing the terrifying aura of death, the nether demon wolf immediately cowered. When the humans had first entered the forest, it had felt a faint but terrifying presence that could allow it to evolve again. Despite the fear, its desire for power drove it to take the risk. But now, it only felt regret. The Soul Master before it radiated an aura of death more terrifying than anything it had ever encountered. This human seemed like the very king of death, the Death King. At the moment Cheng Xiao unleashed his martial soul, a flood of new information poured into his mind. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 11. The Gift of the Monarch. Endurance, a passive skill that activates when stamina falls below 30%, reducing incoming damage by 50%. Recovery status, a passive skill that, after intense physical exertion, completely clears any fatigue following a certain degree of rest, restoring the body to peak condition. Dash, an active skill that increases movement speed by 30%. Vital Strike, a close-range attack skill that allows the user to find flaws in an enemy's defense, delivering significant damage. Throwing Dagger, a long-range attack skill that allows the user to throw a dagger, dealing damage to the enemy. As the skill level increases, accuracy and damage also improve. This is, with one hand on his head, the sudden influx of information made Cheng Xiao feel a slight ache in his brain. However, as his mind gradually cleared, he quickly regained full awareness. It turns out that as Cheng Xiao's synchronization with the power of shadows increased, so too did his level, just like Sung Jinwu, who had a system. Cheng Xiao would continue to level up, and with each level, he would unlock corresponding skills. The skills that appeared in his mind were just a fraction of the many legacies left behind by the Shadow Monarch for him. At the same time, a soul ring marked with strange patterns and glowing dark purple condensed around Cheng Xiao. This was not a soul ring from the world of Douluo, but rather a soul ring condensed from the power of shadows within him, a symbol of his kingship. The soul rings created by shadow power were not based on years of cultivation but on the highest intensity Cheng Xiao's body could withstand. In other words, the soul rings formed by shadow power would grow in strength as Cheng Xiao leveled up. These were evolving soul rings. Cheng Xiao's first soul ring wasn't of 100-year strength. It was of 1,000-year intensity. Even though he hadn't consumed any rare treasures to fortify his body, it had been nourished by shadow power. How could his physique possibly be comparable to that of ordinary spirit masters? As the first soul slowly manifested around Cheng Xiao, the ghost wolf immediately sensed a deep-seated fear emanating from its very soul. The terror surpassed anything related to bloodline, it was a suppression of life itself. Even though the person standing before it appeared to be just a low-level spirit master, a one-ring spirit master at that, the ghost wolf felt an inexplicable sense of looming death. A woo. Realizing that inaction would lead to certain death, the ghost wolf howled skyward, seemingly trying to soothe its fearful heart. Its wolfish eyes locked onto Cheng Xiao, its fangs bared, and it charged at him with its gaping jaws. However, faced with the charging wolf and its menacing maw, Cheng Xiao remained expressionless. He raised his arm and extended a single finger. A beam of dark purple light shot out from his fingertip. As the light burst from his finger, the ghost wolf's body froze. A thumb-sized hole had appeared on its forehead, radiating the essence of death. The next moment, the ghost wolf collapsed powerlessly at Cheng Xiao's feet, its wide-open wolf eyes filled with shock. It could never have imagined that a mere one-ring spirit master could kill it so effortlessly. Of course, what the ghost wolf didn't know was that the person standing before it wasn't Cheng Xiao himself, but the Shadow Monarch utilizing his body. This was the power the king had left behind within Cheng Xiao. Boom. A surge of shadow power swept out, and Cheng Xiao's body suddenly felt weak. He collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. The purple glow in his eyes gradually faded away. Ding. At that moment, an emotionless, cold voice echoed in Cheng Xiao's mind. The system administrator has been killed. You no longer have system player privileges. Reassigning identity. You are now the heir to the Shadow Monarch. The Monarch's gifts have been distributed. Good luck. Wolf Slayer title acquired. When facing beast-type soul beasts, all stats will increase by 40%. Unknown skill max, a passive skill. Its effects are unknown. Descent of the Otherworldly King, already used. Temporary recovery status, instantly restores the body to its peak state, already used. The next moment, Cheng Xiao felt his depleted soul power recovering at an astonishing speed. Following that, an indescribable sense of comfort washed over him. It was a sensation that defied explanation, as if he were floating high above the clouds or experiencing an ultimate ecstasy, so soothing and relaxing. He had no idea how much time had passed, but when Cheng Xiao finally opened his eyes again, the sky had already darkened. Getting up from the ground, he was surprised to discover that his body seemed to have undergone some changes, likely due to the formation of the soul ring. His once sturdy physique had grown taller, and his already handsome face had become even more refined. Looking down at his arm, even though the night had fully fallen, he could still see the fundamental changes in his skin. It was as if his body had been completely purified. It seems the Shadow Monarch's gift pack has run its course, Cheng Xiao murmured, summoning his martial spirit once again. But this time, there was no abnormal phenomenon. A dark purple mist hovered over his right hand, and within that mist were the roaring cries of countless souls and whispered oaths of loyalty. Retracting his martial spirit, Cheng Xiao immediately sat down to meditate. His mind was filled with a huge amount of information, which he needed to process. Skills like dash, hit the weak spot, and throwing dagger all felt incredibly familiar, but since he hadn't actually used them yet, he had to take time to fully digest and master them. Meanwhile, in front of Cheng Xiao, the corpse of the ghost wolf, killed by the Shadow King, began to emit wisps of black smoke. Before the smoke could fully form, it seemed to sense something and swiftly disappeared into Cheng Xiao's shadow. As the black smoke entered Cheng Xiao's shadow, a faint yellow ring of light began to rise from the ghost wolf's corpse. This was the soul ring it had left behind. However, the energy it emitted was exceptionally weak, seemingly even less potent than a 10-year soul beast's ring. Night had fully fallen by the time Tang San and his master, who had abandoned Cheng Xiao, stopped running. Their luck hadn't been great. Due to the master pushing himself beyond his limits, his stamina was quickly exhausted. Their plan to leave the soul-hunting forest and seek help had to be postponed. Since the nether demon wolf had not pursued them, they decided to rest under a large tree until they regained some strength, then continue their escape from the forest. In the pitch-black forest, the first thing visible was a temporary campfire. The pale yellow flames crackled as they burned the wood, the sound of popping filling the quiet night. Tang San and his master sat by the fire, their faces pale. It was clear that their flight had been anything but easy. Even though they had successfully escaped the nether demon wolf, they were left utterly exhausted. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 12. Tang San kills his teacher. Xiao San, take a few white radishes from the 24 moonlit bridges and feed them to San Pao, said the master, looking somewhat dispirited. Okay, teacher. Tang San nodded in response. He extended his hand toward the 24 moonlit bridges, retrieving the white radishes he had stored earlier, and tossed them to the martial soul, Luo San Pao, lying at the master's feet. Woof woof. Seeing the white radishes, Luo San Pao became excited, quickly picking one up and eating it clean in no time. Seeing this, Tang San felt a little embarrassed. Now he understood why the master had taken him to buy white radishes, it was for his martial soul. However, watching Luo San Pao eat the radishes, Tang San couldn't help but feel curious. Teacher, does San Pao always need to eat radishes to use his, soul skill? Upon hearing this, the master's stiff expression changed slightly, and he smiled bitterly. San Pao's attack method is farting. White radishes are useful in catalyzing the fart, and after eating a few radishes, San Pao can quickly replenish his energy and recover his ability to use soul skills. Is that even possible? Tang San wanted to laugh, but seeing the bitterness in the master's eyes, he held it back. A dignified master of martial soul theory, who always spoke so knowledgeably, yet his martial soul's attack method was farting, what an embarrassing and explosive fact in the world of soul masters. Ultimately, the master was just too untalented. If his natural gifts had been a bit better, his martial soul wouldn't have mutated due to a lack of innate soul power. As for his so-called martial soul theories, after so many years of research, what had he truly gained besides knowledge of a few soul beasts? If only he had realized it was his own lack of talent that caused his martial soul to mutate, any sensible person would have done everything they could to find a solution, right? Just then, the urgent barking of Luo San Pao broke the silence. Everything became quiet, and a faint rustling sound reached Tang San's ears. In that moment, he seemed to detect a slight scent of blood and sweetness in the air. Upon smelling it, Tang San blurted out instinctively, "Teacher, be careful. It seems to be poison." Immediately, Tang San activated his mysterious heaven skill, circulating his purple demon eyes to their maximum capacity as he looked in the direction of the sound. Faintly, he saw a dark green, triangular snake head rising from the bushes, its ruby-like eyes staring at them. "Teacher, it's a snake." Tang San warned the master, then quickly took out a firework stick from the 24 moonlit bridges and threw it at the snake's head. The firework ignited in the wind, illuminating the area shrouded in darkness. "This isn't good. It's a Datura snake." Seeing the snake head clearly in the light, the master's voice deepened. "Without Ma Nuo around, we're unlucky to have encountered this Datura snake. Teacher, what should we do?" Tang San asked quietly. "Xiao San, follow the instructions I gave you and run." The master shouted urgently. At the same time, Cheng Xiao was making his way toward the outskirts of the soul-hunting forest. Along the way, he encountered the heavily injured Dean, Ma Nuo. Seeing that Cheng Xiao was unharmed, Ma Nuo asked where Tang San and his teacher had gone. After all, the three of them had originally fled together, but now only Cheng Xiao was present. As the dean, he had to ask. Upon hearing this, Cheng Xiao recalled the scene where Tang San had tried to leave him behind to deal with the soul beast in order to escape with his teacher. If it hadn't been for Cheng Xiao's background as an outsider, he might have died without anyone knowing. Taking a deep breath, Cheng Xiao decided to hide the truth. Even if he told Ma Nuo what had happened, the dean likely wouldn't believe him. Not only was the relationship between the master and Tang San significant, but the idea of a 6-year-old child committing such a deed was hard to accept. After all, children in the Douluo Continent awaken their martial souls at 6. How could a newly awakened child perform such a cruel act? The answer was clearly, no, but was it really impossible for Tang San? How absurd. Cheng Xiao used a mixture of truth and lies to convince Ma Nuo that they had gotten separated. After all, it was Ma Nuo who had stayed behind to cover their retreat, and he knew very well the strength of the mutated nether wolf they had encountered. Thus, Ma Nuo believed Cheng Xiao's story and prepared to leave the forest to gather reinforcements. However, as the two passed through a silent thicket, they suddenly heard a shout. What was that? Ma Nuo froze, looking in the direction of the sound. Xiao-san, run! It's the master and Tang-san. Recognizing the voice, Ma Nuo rushed forward. Cheng Xiao shrugged helplessly and followed. The two pushed through the thicket and indeed saw the figures of the master and Tang-san. Opposite them, a snake-like soul beast was staring them down, its tongue flicking out menacingly. It's a datura snake. Ma Nuo recognized the soul beast. He hadn't expected such bad luck on this hunt, first encountering a mutated nether wolf and barely escaping with his life, and now running into a century-old datura snake. What horrible luck! Xiao-san, master, run towards me. We need to get out of here. Ma Nuo's sudden shout startled both Tang-san and the master, who were preparing to face the datura snake. They both looked toward the source of the voice and saw Ma Nuo waving at them, shouting for them to run. But the datura snake clearly wasn't willing to let its prey escape. Its body coiled tightly, and in an instant, it shot toward Tang-san, who stood beside the master. For some reason, although the master was a two-ring soul master, the snake felt a sense of threat from this child who had no soul rings. Not good, it's coming for me, Tang-san's eyes narrowed. He channeled his mysterious heaven skill into his legs, and with a burst of strength, leapt into the air. In midair, he twisted his body and stealthily raised his left hand. A sharp black glint shot out, his Tang sect hidden weapon, the silent sleeve arrow. The datura snake, seeing the attack, halted its charge. Before it could put up any defense, the black arrow had already pierced its left eye. The snake hissed in pain, thrashing its tongue wildly as if it could alleviate the pain. But before it could recover, Tang-san fired several more arrows, aiming for its vital points. Learning from its earlier mistake, the datura snake dodged the incoming arrows. Just as it was about to strike, it saw Tang-san approaching with a short sword in hand. What the datura snake didn't know was that Tang-san had already concentrated all of his mysterious heaven skill energy into the sword. His hand glowed blue, and with the assistance of his ghost shadow perplexing track, he swiftly closed in on the snake. The snake opened its mouth wide, intending to swallow Tang-san whole. But Tang-san, with his agile movements, seized the moment and plunged his sword deep into the snake's open mouth. The next second, the datura snake's body convulsed violently. Its tail swept towards Tang-san in retaliation, but he dodged the attack with his ghostly footwork. Seeing Tang-san's dangerous actions, the master shouted, "Xiao-san, come back. It's too dangerous." After landing a powerful strike, Tang-san used his ghost shadow perplexing track to retreat quickly. Hearing the master's call, he deliberately stumbled and fell to the ground. At that moment, Tang-san's mind was filled with one thought. Both the master and Dean Ma Nuo had witnessed everything he had done. His soul didn't belong to this world, and he couldn't allow them to learn the secrets of his Tang sect techniques. There was only one solution: silence them both, forever. Initially, upon seeing Ma Nuo, Tang-san had no intention of using his Tang sect skills. But when Ma Nuo didn't come to help and instead urged them to flee, Tang-san deduced that Ma Nuo must have been seriously injured. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suggested they escape. This realization gave Tang-san the idea to kill both of them to eliminate any loose ends. He believed that with his Tang sect hidden weapons and the speed and power of his silent sleeve arrows, killing two injured people would be as easy as turning his hand. Next chapter.